All right, guys, we're going to talk about will Ripple's IPO actually help XRP's price and when they could possibly do it. Now, would they do it anytime soon? I know some of you are hoping that at the proper party, they'll announce a date for the Ripple IPO. That's generally not how it works. They actually have to file for an IPO first. And the thing is, I don't think they'll file for one until all the appeals are over. Because if XRP price actually increased massively due to Ripple's IPO, it would obviously kind of hurt your argument for it not being a security. Remember, a lot of the prongs of one of the prongs of the Howey test is, does it actually have a common enterprise? Which means the price of XRP should not depend on Ripple's efforts. Obviously, if you IPO, your stock goes up like 10x, and of course your crypto value goes up 10x as well. That kind of tanks your argument. So it'd be kind of dumb to actually file before all the appeals are over. This is actually where the SEC could actually help Ripple with their interlocutory appeal, because that goes a lot faster than the regular appeal. Now, if it gets denied, I don't think they'll actually, and the SEC does file for a regular appeal, I don't actually think they'll actually IPO for another couple of years. Because just because of the reason I said earlier, if you basically want the appellate judges to determine on the same basis of facts that Torres did, you don't really want an event where a company's ICO really affects the price of the coin, because that would obviously signal that what the company does actually does affect the price of the coin a lot, which is what a lot of XRP people in this lawsuit have been arguing against. They're like, oh, Ripple doesn't dictate the price of the coin. Whether it does or not, I will actually let you guys decide on. But the thing is, if indeed your IPO has a massive effect on the price of the coin, it would kind of blow your logic apart. So my guess is it'll be a couple of years before they file for IPO if this interlocutory appeal gets denied. If it gets granted and the SEC loses the appeal, then I think it can actually go at a much faster pace, possibly even next year. I don't think there's a chance for this year, but possibly next year. There's only 3 or 4 months left in this year, so the chance for this year is very, very small. Would it actually have an effect on XRP's price? That's actually a tough one, and I think it really depends on when they IPO. If they IPO right now, it might actually not have that much of an effect on Ripple's price, because it really depends on the valuation of the company. If the company's valuation doesn't really go up that much, during an IPO, the coin's price won't probably go up as much as well. If the company's valuation jumps 10 to 20x during the IPO, I do actually think the coin's price has a good chance to jump. I don't know if it'll actually jump to the all-time high or something, and if it does jump, it'll probably be a pump and dump, just like other major events, because there's no actual reason for the coin's value to actually go up. It's not like they just got adopted massively. It's just that people will see the company's valuation go up. They'll consider that the coin is part of the company's assets, so the coin actually should be higher. But if it does actually spike in an ICO, that would actually be a time to sell and cash into profits, because it probably will come back down. I think after Coinbase IPO'd, during the bear market, you kind of saw the reality and Coinbase shares tanked. And now if an IPO brings the price up, the company share tanking price will actually tank the price of the coin too. And I'm not really sure what percentage of the company's assets they'll actually assign the coin to. And that's a very, very hard question to say. So if it actually debuts during the bear market, I don't think it'll actually affect it that much. There might be a FOMO pump of a day or two where it actually goes up and then drops back down. Because Coinbase basically got overvalued immediately and started dropping back down. I'm not really sure about Ripple and what their comparative valuation is to Coinbase and how much of the XRP escrow will actually play into the valuation of their company. Because the value of the escrow is going to be heavily discounted from the market cap of the escrow, because you can't sell all the escrow for cash without affecting the price. And plus, it's on a time lock, so you can't really liquidate it all at once to actually, save the company if the company actually needs cash. So I'm sure the XRP escrow will actually be taken into consideration in terms of the value of the company's price, but it won't really be the full value. And I do think the company's partnership stuff will actually play a pretty large role in determining the value of an IPO as well. So the IPO, obviously, it does relate to the company. It relates to the company's share price. And obviously, share price is directly tied to how the company is doing. XRP, according to the lawsuit filing, is not supposed to be directly tied to how the company is doing because of the whole Howey test thing. So, making that differentiation within the lawsuit, I'm not really sure if people will actually hesitate because, you just spent 2 years arguing that the fate of the coin does not equal the fate of the company, and the coin and the company do not share the same fates. I think, despite that's being on paper, I think a lot of people will eventually ignore that. If the company actually IPOs, they'll actually see XRP as heavily related to Ripple, the company, and I think they'll invest in such a manner. So I wouldn't actually be too afraid of that. My guess is they debut in the bear market, it really won't go up at all. I think in the bull market, it could actually spike it to a couple of times what it was currently worth. And during that time, you will definitely want to sell, even if the bulls are actually running up, because you will see a down spike after the FOMO is over. We know that FOMO events pretty much always have down spikes, and I don't think this will actually be any different. As for the price prediction, I don't know. I think an IPO would actually take it past its all-time high. I still don't think it would actually go above the $5 to $10 valuation, because remember, you look at Ripple, the company, it's worth $6.6 billion right now. Even if it 10x's during the IPO and it's worth $60 billion, that escrow has 50, almost 50 billion coins in it right now. So $10 would be 500 billion dollars, and the company's not going to get that kind of valuation. So it could spike to a couple of dollars and then come back down. And the thing is, the IPO, if the company's full valuation is if the company's full valuation is only let's say it only 10x's 20x's, it goes up to, let's say, 60 billion, up from 6 billion right now, which I think is actually a pretty good prediction for the company's valuation, even during a good market. A 60 billion valuation will actually include what's in the escrow, and that would just be slightly over $1 for XRP. Obviously, it's going to be over $1 and probably over $2 because they're going to discount the market cap since you can't liquidate it all at once and it is under a time lock. But the thing is, they're not going to count the company's value as only a tenth of what's actually in the escrow because the company does own a lot of the escrow. And that's the thing. If Ripple actually sold that escrow or most of that escrow by the time they actually IPO, you probably wouldn't have this problem. But in the initial valuations, all the estimators or appraisers of the company will have to pay attention to the coins they have in escrow, and that might actually have an effect on the share price. Conversely, if the share price only pumps up 10x from what it is right now, and they value the company at 60 billion, they're saying that escrow is not worth very much, or not worth all that much, or the coins in the escrow are worth no more than a couple of bucks, and that will probably affect the XRP price as well. If XRP is at 50 cents, that escrow is roughly worth, on a dollar value, maybe $20-25 billion. And if the company's only worth $60 billion, then the escrow is almost half the company already. So it may not actually push the company up. I think there will be a boost of confidence. I highly doubt XRP will surge 20x just because of the IPO of Ripple, the company. I think an increase of maybe 2 to 3x is much more likely, if that even happens. And I think in a bull market with the IPO, an increase of 2 to 3x from what their current price is, from not their current price right now, from what their current price is at the time, could actually play into it. Now, if XRP is already really high at the time of their IPO, it might only increase by 20, 30, 40, 50% based on what their price is. Because once again, you're going to have to equate the company value with what's actually in the escrow. And a lot of the analysts are saying Ripple might be worth, 60 billion or 100 billion if the market is good when they actually IPO, because they're only valued at $6 billion right now, or about that amount. And even at $100 billion, if you have $1 XRP, the escrow is almost worth half the company. And the rest of that company, the software, the employees, the intellectual property, the partnerships, and everything else they have with the banking system has to be worth a lot as well. Otherwise, you're basically saying the entire worth of the company is basically in the XRP token. And once again, that really wouldn't actually abide too well with the whole Howey test if the entire worth of the company is tied up in your escrow tokens. So there's a lot at play legally with this as well, and it depends on and the timing really depends on how far the SEC decides to appeal. Now, if they lose the interlocutory appeal, I don't know if they'll do a full appeal or if they'll appeal the Supreme Court. That seems quite unlikely because the Supreme Court basically takes forever, and that actually might be part of the SEC's plan, is to just drag it out forever. But the Supreme Court could also just refuse to hear it, and it's unlikely the Supreme Court would reverse the decision, especially because there's a conservative majority in Congress, and Gary Gensler is speaking for more of a Democratic viewpoint. I think the vote could be along party lines, or could even be worse for Gary Gensler, and he actually might suffer a unanimous defeat in the Supreme Court, which I think would be the ultimate black mark on his career. So yes, I do think the Ripple IPO would actually boost up the coin's value, but not by nearly as much as people think, because you do have to equate the value of the escrow with the value of the company, and looking at the possible valuations of the company after they IPO, and what analysts are actually predicting, even in a good market, it won't bring it up to like 10 or 15 bucks. It might bring it up to like $2 or $3 though. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.